Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world. Now then, so here is your update on the Nancy Guthrie case. So I think what I'm going to do, as long as I can do it, if things, pan out, every morning at around this time, I will come on and do an update of what's happened the night before. Obviously, I'm in Spain for anyone who doesn't know, in Europe, so I'm at a completely different time zone than America. So it's difficult, sort of in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night here, which of course is daytime. In America, it's difficult for me to come on and do updates and things like that. But this is a good time, come out as soon as I wake up in the morning, come on, see what's transpired. Sometimes through the night, like last night, every time I wake up in the night, I'm on checking to see what's going on, watching some of the streams, the live streams that are going on from the streamers who are at the scene, etc. And as usual, there's conflicting things coming out. Now, so the first thing I want to start, so just thank you. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you to my members. Thank you to those of you who sent super stickers, Ko-fis, etc., emails. I think we're all, at the end of the day, we're all on the same page. We all want to know what happened to Nancy. Where is Nancy? It's like people don't just disappear into a puff of smoke and get beamed up onto Starship Enterprise. So Nancy is somewhere, hopefully still alive, but of course hopes have dwindled, haven't they? Because she's been missing quite a long time now. She's an April fish, and there's been no proof of life shown. But having said that, there's no proof of death either. So we have to remember that there's just nothing. We don't know. Well, there's things going on behind the scenes, that's apparent. And maybe, the police and the FBI are advancing silently behind the scenes. And hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello, replay crew. Thank you for watching. And hi, West Side Crime Show, and all hippie who are in the chat. So, right, let me start. So there's quite a few things that have transpired overnight, and some are conflicting things. There's a lot of conflicting things in this case. Now, we know that Sheriff Nanos, he has not done a press conference for, God, I can't even remember when he last did a press conference. At least 12 days ago, maybe even more, maybe even 2 weeks ago since he last did a press conference. But every now and again he pops up, doesn't he, on the local media or whatever. Mr. Ego, the deputy dog, the clown prince of sheriffs, whatever, nobody's really got very good things to say about him. Have they? Because I know, we've seen that people have said bad things about him. But normally, then somebody, even with contentious people like Donald Trump or whatever, you'll have lots of people saying bad things and lots of people saying good things. I don't think we've heard anybody saying anything really good about Sheriff Nanos, have we? Maybe I've just missed it along the line. I don't know. Anyway, he came out with a statement. His office came out with a statement that I'm going to read to you. I'm going to show you. This was the statement that they released last night. And let me read it to you, because you might not be able to see it very well on that. So, a statement from Sheriff Chris Nanos on the Nancy Guthrie investigation. He always starts off with, to be clear, be clear, please. Everybody's been asking you to be clear, and you haven't been clear. Anyway, this is what he says. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. So he's saying the Guthries, Savannah, Cameron and Annie and their spouses, So that includes Tommaso, who's the spouse of Annie, who's come under a lot of scrutiny since Ashley Banfield declared he was a suspect. And maybe he was a suspect right in the beginning. Maybe that's why she said it. Don't like to think that, was she just sort of making a shocking statement? Because then also she did not retract it. She doubled down on it, insisting he was a suspect. So that has caused, of course, everyone to think he's a suspect. It's obvious, but he's saying, Sheriff Nanos, as clear as anything. Let's be clear. Remember, to be clear, the family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and are the victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. Now, this starts to annoy me when he gets to the end of it, because in the video we watched where he was being interviewed by local media, when he was asked if the family were suspects, he said, well, he didn't say this, put it that way. He sort of made this sort of ambiguous comment like, well, everyone's a suspect until they're cleared, that sort of thing. So whether something's transpired since then that means that maybe the family were once not ruled out, let's say, not exactly suspects, but not ruled out. Now maybe DNA testing or something has ruled them out. I just don't know. You don't know with this guy, do you? You can't, work out his word salad, what it means. So to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple, and I would agree with that. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honour your profession. Now, the irony, and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So look at that accusatory statement. Mr. bloody Deputy Doug, who's been useless from the beginning of this investigation, held back the investigation by not giving the FBI, we're going to talk about that again in a minute, not really giving the FBI, not giving that, sharing information with them, trying to shut them out, not sending the DNA to their lab, but sending it to a private lab. This is the guy who's telling everybody else to honour their profession. Anyway, so I'm glad he's coming out with this statement. Yes, let's be clear. We want you to be clear. It's not us that haven't been clear. It's you who hasn't been clear. So the way he's sort of saying this, oh, I've just realised I've got Gus's photo up there. Let me take that off and put Nancy's up there. We want you to be clear, and we've wanted you to be clear from the beginning. So good, you're being clear. Now, the confusing thing about that is, I don't know if any of you were watching any of the live streams last night or through the night. So he's saying clearly that the Guthries, the siblings and spouses are cleared. But last night, the police, the FBI or somebody was in Annie and Tommaso's house again, taking photos, because I was watching JLR, who was documenting it all. And whatever anyone thinks of JLR or the other YouTubers or whatever, they're there documenting what is happening in this case. That's just a fact of life now. When you get a high profile case, this is always going to happen, and it has to be dealt with. It's the sheriff's office didn't deal with it properly by sealing off the crime scene from the beginning. That's their fault. That's not the YouTubers' fault. The YouTubers are going there doing what they do, what they've done for a few years now. It's not new anymore, is it? That's the other thing. It isn't new now. I mean, I've been watching JLR for years. So, this isn't a new thing. Just, you've got to cope with it. You've got to, if the sheriff's office would have sealed off the crime scene that they said was a crime scene from day one. So let's not forget that either. It's not a question if they weren't sure if it was a crime at first. They knew it was a crime. He announced it was a crime right from day one. So that's his fault if he doesn't secure the parameter. It's nobody else's responsibility to secure the crime scene except for the police. That's their job, not everybody else's job. Anyway, they were there. They were there at Annie and Tommaso's house last night taking photos. So if all the family have been cleared, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Then why were they there taking photos again? Just wondering if it, because of course it was at Annie and Tommaso's house that Nancy spent the last evening she was seen. So why would it? And they've been there many times, the FBI. Now, if the family have been cleared, just a question that I'm asking. I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason for it, but strange, isn't it? Sheriff Nanos announces this, the family and the spouses have been cleared, and then they're there at the home of Annie's home taking photos again, and we don't know exactly what they were doing there. They were definitely taking photos because flashes were going off. They went in the dead of night. It was pitch black. Why did they go when it was pitch black? Was it to do with luminol? Because luminol that detects blood glows in the dark. But if the family have been cleared, then why would they be going there and testing for luminol? Very strange, isn't it, the whole thing? So anyway, that's what our good sheriff has said. The family are clear. The siblings and spouses, anyway, at least, are clear. We're going to talk in a bit about another family member who might be implicated. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. So the next thing I wanted to tell you about, I wanted to tell you about them being at Annie's house last night. Everything's mysterious about this case, isn't it? You say someone's not, you don't have to tell the truth. You could be saying they're not suspects and maybe they are, I don't know. But the problem with this sheriff as well is we don't have much faith in him. Just because he says something, we don't necessarily believe it's true, do we? That's where we've come to in this investigation. Even when law enforcement do come out and say something, now we're like, we're not sure if we believe you because we've lost faith in this guy. We've lost faith in this guy. And where are the press conferences? I still say it's ridiculous not doing any press conference in all this time. I say don't have to do one every day, but should do one every couple of days. That's my opinion. Anyway, it's only my opinion. Hi, Snoopy. Hi, Daniel. So yeah, it's only my opinion, but that's what it is. Now then, the next thing I wanted to tell you about, which completely, the sheriff is coming out and making this statement, but now it seems that there's a delay in the DNA testing. Now, I don't know, we have these visions, don't we? Probably because of TV programs we've seen about crime. And they say, they're going to put the DNA through CODIS, the bank of DNA that the FBI have. You just have a vision of them sitting down at a computer and, tap, 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 put in the DNA. Of course, it's more complicated than that. Also, they have to follow strict rules because, for privacy laws and things like that, there is DNA you can't put in, or you need permission, or so it's not as simple as just sitting down at the computer, tapping in a few things or whatever, and submitting and sending the DNA file off or whatever. It's much more complicated than that. So apparently, because Deputy Dog sent off the DNA to the private lab, decided not to send it to Quantico, to the lab at Quantico to be tested. This has caused a delay, apparently. Again, this is what is being reported. I'm only reporting what's being reported, in mainstream media, and podcasters are reporting that there's been a delay because in Quantico, they can't just submit DNA from a private lab. As much as they work with private labs, but they can't, it has to come from, so basically something like it has to go back to the police department and then go to Quantico, whereas he could have sent it to Quantico right straight away initially. But because he decided to send it somewhere else first, it can't come from there. It can't be uploaded from there. It has to come back to the sheriff's department, go back to Quantico. Apparently, I mean, this is what people are saying. As I say, what the truth is, who knows in this case. So there's a delay. So the DNA, which was hoping to see if it would have been linked to anybody who's already on the database, by today, really, but it's going to be another day, apparently, at least another day. So we've got to wait more for the DNA testing to identify a suspect. So that's the other thing I wanted to tell you. So that's then the next thing I wanted to tell you, or the next development that's been reported by Brian Entin. And he says he's confirmed it. I'll take his word for that. I think he, normally knows what he's talking about. But apparently the FBI are going to Tucson gun stores with 40 photos of suspects and asking if they've bought a gun there. 40. Now, does this mean they've got 40 suspects, or is it more likely to be because when they call somebody in, somebody to identify somebody, they don't just put the person they want them to identify in front of them, either in person or if they're showing them a bank of photos. They show them a lot of photos, don't they? I don't know if they've got a minimum number, or they have a lineup of a certain number of men or women, of course, who all have got similarities, because they want the witness, whoever it is, to pick out the right person. And when it comes to court, they want them to say, oh, well, we lined them up with another 30 people and this was the person that they picked out, or we showed them 30 photos and this was the person they picked out. It's very convincing evidence then, isn't it? It can also go the other way, of course. If the witness does not pick out the right person, then that means they have to think again about, finding sort of proper evidence against that person that they can use in court. And quite often, eyewitnesses, they do pick out the wrong person. Very often that happens. Sometimes they just walk straight into the room and it's them. Other times they're honest and they say, oh, look, I'm sorry, I can't pick one out. And sometimes they do identify the wrong person, because people are fallible, aren't they? Eyewitness testimony is probably the least reliable testimony you have when you go to court, because it depends on the person as well, how sure they are. Listen, a clever defense lawyer can easily dismantle witness testimony because they know what they're doing. They can tie the person in knots. And even though the person might be genuinely, not being duplicitous, be genuine, but it's easy to cause doubt in someone's mind, especially if you're an experienced defense barrister. So anyway, that is that likely to be the reason they're taking 40 photos around, rather than, they're not just taking one photo and saying, do you know this guy? They're taking 40 photos. That doesn't necessarily mean they've got 40 suspects, does it? Hi, Joanne. So let's have a look what Brian Entin has got to say about it. Thank you, Brian, for You know, Brian is also very valuable, his videos, to the rest of us to understand what's going on in this case.
Has brought a list of 40 names and 40 photos. So some new information that I
Right, let me just make sure it's sharing. It should be now, yeah. So you'll hear him say a list of 40 names and 40 photos the FBI are taking round gun shops in Tucson.
was just able to confirm there are several gun stores in Tucson where the FBI has shown up and has brought a list of 40 names and 40 photos. So 40 names and 40 photos, and is asking the gun stores to tell them whether or not these people have been inside the store or whether or not they have purchased a gun. So this is brand new information. I don't know if that means that there's 40 suspects or persons of interest, or if they mixed a couple of names in there. That I don't know, but I can confirm that several gun stores say that that the FBI showed up with a list of 40 names and 40 photos and asked them to confirm whether those people have been inside the store or whether they have purchased a gun. And this is in the Tucson area. So that's pretty significant. Again, as the investigation continues, we're waiting on the DNA evidence. Libby Dean, one of my coworkers, is reporting that the DNA has not been put into CODIS yet. The DNA from the glove that was found, that should be happening soon. That's the federal database where they can kind of cross-reference it against other suspects. So just wanted to give you guys the latest. Hey guys, so some new information.
Yeah, so yeah, the DNA has definitely not gone in yet. It might have gone in by now, but it hadn't as of yesterday, which holds up the whole investigation, doesn't it? But I think we can thank Deputy Dog for that. Anyway, yeah, so interesting. Let's just hear it one more time, actually. Let's hear what he says one more time. Let me know, as always, what do you think this means? Why do you think they're doing this? Do you think they've got a particular suspect in mind? I feel like they probably have, and we're going to talk about possibilities of who it might be in a moment.
That I was just able to confirm there are several gun stores in Tucson where the FBI has shown up and has brought a list of 40 names and 40 photos. So 40 names and 40 photos, and is asking the gun stores to tell them whether or not these people have been inside the store or whether or not they have purchased a gun. So this is brand new information. I don't know if that means that there's 40 suspects or persons of interest, or if they mixed a couple of names in there. That I don't know, but I can confirm that several gun stores say that that the FBI showed up with a list of 40 names and 40 photos and asked them to confirm whether those people have been inside the store or whether they have purchased a gun. And this is in the Tucson area. So that's pretty significant. Again, as the investigation continues, we're waiting on the DNA evidence. Libby Dean, one of my coworkers, is reporting that the DNA has not been put into CODIS yet. The DNA from the glove that was found, that should be happening soon. That's the federal database where they can kind of cross-reference it against other suspects. So just wanted to give you guys the latest. Hey.
Oh, there you go. That is new information. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think, it sounds to me like they've probably got one suspect, and they're masking it with the other 39, or maybe even they've got a few different suspects, but I doubt very much they've got 40 suspects, or possibly. But because they won't want the YouTubers going to the gun store, or anyone mainstream media, and the gun store saying, oh yeah, they showed us one photo of one guy who's called Jose Moreno or whatever, because that would stick in someone's mind. But if you go and show them 40 photos and 40 different names, they'll be struggling to remember the names of the people, etc. They want them to identify them, but they don't want them then talking to the press and saying who they were asked to identify, So, hi, Ale Skooma. You think they still don't have anything? Maybe not. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe they're just. I can't believe they haven't got anything, though. They've got to have Surely, you know, all these weeks in, they've got to have something. Now, a name that keeps popping up, and I don't know. So, in that SWAT sort of, what's the word? I was going to say attack. It's not an attack. But on Friday, last Friday, of course, that was when we had all that activity. The SWAT teams went out to that address only a couple of miles from Nancy Guthrie's house, and they detained a couple of people, didn't they? And they've towed off vehicles. I imagine they've taken DNA, searched the place. And there was a lot of kerfuffle about that, but then nobody was charged, nobody was arrested. And, you know, it was like, well, what was all that about, wasn't it? But a name that keeps popping up is this Luke person. There's a person called Luke. Now, this is pure conjecture. I'm just going on, you know, what people are saying. I don't know the truth behind this. But if it is true, it does actually make sense, because this guy is connected to a family member of the Guthries, but not one of the siblings, and not one of the siblings, and not one of the spouses of the siblings. So let me find the post that I was reading about it. Well, there's been lots of. Oh, now they're saying no. Gosh. So so then again, 6 hours ago, this was dispelled, because there was this rumor going around social media that the guy that was arrested on Friday, not arrested, detained, is the boyfriend of Nancy Guthrie's niece. But now it's being said, and it's being verified. You know, this is what I mean. Just don't know that they're not the girlfriend of the man who was detained during Friday night's raid is not Nancy Guthrie's niece, nor is she related to Nancy Guthrie in any way. It's very strange, isn't it? You know, where is the truth? Where is the truth here? I'm just looking down to see if I can find anything else about it. Yeah, apparently she does have no relationship to the Guthries at all. I think I'm going to leave that then. I'm not going to talk about this person, because I don't want to cause undue attention to someone when it's not true. You've got to make sure it's true first. Let's see. See, the thing is, it does make sense to me that whoever did whatever's been done to Nancy, because we don't really know, I think it makes sense that they're connected to Nancy in some way, because I still don't believe this is just a random. I just do not believe this is just a random thing, that it was just a burglary gone wrong. That was another thing that was said the other day, wasn't it? So someone on the mainstream media said they'd heard the police said it was a burglary gone wrong, and then we had Sheriff Nanas coming on and saying, I don't know where that came from. We've never said it was a burglary gone wrong. And then, you know, so it's like every time one bit of information comes out, another bit of conflicting information comes out. It's just, looking for the only real official information is that statement from the sheriff, who says the entire Guthrie family, including siblings and spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects, and he describes them as cooperative and victims. That's the only official statement we've had. So maybe we just have to stick with that, and we can't go with the other. We can't go with statements that can't be proven, can we? We can't go with this. We can't go with this conjecture about this Luke guy. I'm not going to talk about because I don't know. So what happened then, Ailscummer? You say you know exactly what happened. Well, you're probably the only person on this earth who does. You tell us then, what do you think exactly happened? I don't think anybody knows what exactly happened, except the people who did it, and poor Nancy, if she's anywhere where she's ever going to be able to relate this story. My blood just goes cold when I think about what she will have gone through. An old lady like that with a heart condition waking up in the middle of the night, a guy in a ski mask is there, faced with a gun. I mean, if that didn't give you a heart attack, even if you had a heart condition or not. This is what makes me worry so much about Nancy, and of course the blood in the doorway, and of course the fact that nobody. So there's been more ransom emails sent to TMZ, but I think I'm dispelling them as the authorities have not come out and said any of those ransom emails are genuine. Nobody's provided any proof of life in this case. But then we do have no proof of death either. So Nancy's body hasn't been found. So we've got no proof she's dead. We've got no proof she's alive. So, oh, you think it's connected to Epstein? Well, that's another theory, isn't it? Because Savannah, she did interview all those Epstein videos. We watched a bit of that the other day. There's something, anything's possible in this case. All we know for certain is Nancy is gone. Nobody knows where she is. The sheriff says her family are all innocent and have been cleared, and their spouses. So that blows a lot of theories out of the water that were going on for a while, mainly started by Ashley Banfield. And now there's other theories to, people talking about this Luke guy, but, again, I'm not going to get into that. I've decided now because, now if he doesn't seem to have any connection with any family of Nancy. See, that it sort of made sense to me, that because, quite often it is extended family, not only close family, extended family. Just don't know. To me, it was somebody who knows that house intimately for whatever reason, because they've done work there, because of, I don't know, been the caregiver there or done the cleaning there, or a relative, either close or extended. Somebody knew Nancy's house, knew Nancy's setup, knew she was there on her own, so I don't know. Okay, so that's all I've got to say then until the next update. So the main things are then that the sheriff has cleared the family officially in a statement that is given, said that the siblings and their spouses are not suspects. Then we know for sure that the FBI are going around the gun shops in Tucson with these 40 photos asking if these people have been seen. We also know for sure that the DNA has been held up. It's going to be another day before it gets matched. The thing is the DNA, if the DNA comes back as a match to anyone, if this Luke guy that everybody's talking about is supposed to be a convicted felon, his DNA, it will be on CODIS, so it will come up. So that'll be a slam dunk, won't it, if it does come up? So we'll wait for that, I think. And that's it, really, wasn't it? That was the updates. Oh, yeah, but why were the police back at Tommaso's and Annie's house last night taking photos? If the family have all been ruled out as suspects, why were they back last night at Annie's? Why did they keep going back to Annie's house, which is, of course, the last place that Nancy was seen before she disappeared? You know, why do they keep going back? It's it's something to wonder about, isn't it? Because if they've been cleared, I don't know why they would be back there last night taking photos. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Press your notifications. Every morning I'll definitely be giving an update. I will give one before that if there's anything significant comes through. I will be back later. I've got some other updates on other cases. Yeah, Snoopy, maybe family as in next of kin. You know, it's like, I just feel I don't feel like it was a burglary gone wrong. It could have been a kidnapping gone wrong, but do you know, it's not common for people to be kidnapped. You know, it's not something, I know it happens, and probably a lot of the time we don't even get to hear about kidnappings because they're normally quite under the radar, aren't they? You know, the kidnappers don't want a big fuss, they just want their money. But you know, Nancy and even Savannah, I know that Savannah's quite famous and maybe she's got a fair amount of money, but you know, she's not a billionaire, is she? You know, it's like, I don't know, it just all feels weird to me. Feels weird to me that I don't believe it's kidnapping and I don't believe it's a burglary gone wrong. I believe it was, you know, Nancy was targeted for whatever reason, but I just don't know why. And where is she? I think she's round about there somewhere. I wish they'd get the dogs out, get the horses out, you know, start searching close to home, because personally that's where I think Nancy is. But time will tell. Hopefully she's safe somewhere being looked after. That's a possibility as well, isn't it? That's what we have to pray for, I suppose. Okay, I will see you really soon in the next video. I'll be back later on today. I've got other cases that I want to catch up on with Gus Lamont in particular. I've got some more news about that case. I wanted to maybe talk a bit about Jack and Lily Sullivan, although there's not really been any updates. I just wanted to talk about because I don't want their names to sort of go out of, you know, the public consciousness. And a few other cases. So what I might do is just one sort of crime chat. I'll put, you know, of all because none of them, they're all little bits of information about different cases that you might find interesting, that we do, and ones that we just want to keep names in people's view, don't we? You know, we have to keep talking about these victims and not forget that they ever existed. And there's so many victims that don't make, you know, I've been looking at some missing persons cases, people that have never even really made the news properly. And, you know, they all deserve to be talked about as well, don't they? So, okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Please remember to hit like and subscribe.